officials in New England. This game, as we mentioned, on paper should not be close. UConn winners of 18 out of 19. Brown has won just 3 of their 11 starts. But as we mentioned, last year's game was the same story, and the Huskies were extremely fortunate to come out 1-0 victors. So almost anything can happen here this afternoon.
Tell me, did you believe that the rivalry between these two clubs really will make this game a lot closer than it should be?
Well, Harold, I think it's going to make Brown make it a lot closer than it should be. As for the University of Connecticut, this is yet another game in a streak of consecutive wins that they've had. They've won 16 in a row, and they can't really get up for Brown the way the Bruins can get up for them. This could make the season for the Brown Bruins. As we mentioned, no playoff hopes for them right now. They've got 3 games left, 2 after today, 1 at home against Dartmouth, and then another against the nationally rated power Columbia. So although the Bruins have no playoff hopes of their own, they could really act as spoilers for either UConn or Columbia as far as the national poll goes.
And last year they defeated Columbia in a overtime match, the last game of the season. They were 1-8 at one point, won their last 4 games of the season. So Brown, maybe a second half of the season team, even though it's not apparent this year because they've lost their last 3 games, and the last win was over Division II Springfield.
And, of course, Al, as you mentioned, eligibility problem is a big problem for the Bruins this year. They lost their leading active scorer, Dan Carusi, due to grades earlier in the season. And now, of course, Ted Flameropoulos has not played the entire season. They have other players injured. Fred Reinhardt, a midfielder, more or less semi-regular out for the season. They had 6 or 7 other players not make the trip today. They brought up a couple players from the sub-varsity in the last couple of days, so the Brown Bruins continue to rebuild. Last year was supposed to be the rebuilding year, but due to a poor recruiting year, among other things, and also, as we mentioned, eligibility problems among those players that remain, the Bruins program right now is in a holding pattern. They might be as good as they were 5 years ago, Harold, but the problem is all the rest of New England has caught up and passed them by.
Well, they've had some problems scoring on offense. They've only scored 18 goals this season, while they've allowed 23. But still, their offense has been suspect the past couple years. And the Connecticut Huskies start the kickoff at Gardner Dow Field, and this game is right underway. Connecticut Huskies wearing their white jerseys and short blue pants, and the Brown Bruins wearing their dark brown jerseys and dark brown shorts, getting this game set to go underway. Connecticut going from left to right, and Brown going from right to left. And right now, we have a throw-in for the Connecticut Huskies right in front of the press box. And throwing the ball in is Erhard Kapp. Kapp all the way down the right side for Graziano Cornolo. Cornolo right outside the penalty area. Last one in front of the goal. And a nice save made by Mikko as he comes out from the goal, making an easy play off the lobber. And he throws the ball on the right side outwards to his teammate Carlos Fernandez. And Brown's attack is underway. Ball kicked out of bounds by Charlie McSpirit, a throw-in for the Brown Bruins. Remind you, you're listening to this game on WHUS, Storrs Connecticut, 91.7 FM on your radio dial. Kicking the ball into the Connecticut area is Sherman Swanson. Swanson, for a teammate, kicks it deep into the territory where it's stolen by Charlie McSpirit. McSpirit brings it up across the midfield line, guarded closely by Stu Mountain. McSpirit passing the right side to DeBrito. DeBrito getting between two Brown players, and Hacker comes up and steals it for the Bruins. Hacker kicks the ball all the way down to Connecticut territory where it's picked up by Erhard Kapp, and Kapp over to Tim Maisley. Maisley crosses the ball across the midfield line for Joe Maroney. Just underway here from Gardner Dow Field, the Connecticut Huskies versus the Brown Bruins. Erhard Kapp inside Brown territory, trying to get around one player, but he's the ball stolen by Stu Mountain all the way down to his teammate Jeff Hacker. Hacker gives it to the goalie Greg Mitko, and Brown will start it up all the way down the other side of the field. Mitko throws it right to the chest of Erhard Kapp. Kapper steals it, trying to get around Scott. Gives it over to Elvis Comrie. Comrie playing a one-on-one game against Hacker. Sends a pass back to Tim Maisley, and Maisley looking the ball to get the ball inside. A give and go with Erhard Kapp. Nice play down the right side, and Maisley has some daylight, but he's slowed up by number 6, Tim White. He sends the ball in front of the goal area. Graziano Cornolo takes a shot, but it's off a Brown player's leg, Andy Lauda, and goes into the corner where it's scooped up by Tim White. White kicks the ball up the field for teammate Stu Mountain. Mountain sends it back to Greg Janitos. Right now, Janitos, the leading scorer for the Brown Bruins with 3 goals and 5 assists for 8 points. And he sends it all the way upfield for a streaking Tim White. White playing one-on-one with Bill Maroney takes a shot on goal, a weak one. He goes wide to the left, and it's picked off by Ricky Crenn. Playing with the ball, sends it back to Jim Renahan. And Renahan dribbling the ball out and looking to send it away from his goal. He gives it over to Erhard Kapp. Kapper over to Tim Maisley. 42-22 remaining in the first half. This is Harold Darak along with Andy Young from Gardner Dow Field. Ball kicked out of bounds. Last touched by the Connecticut Huskies, and it will be a Brown throw-in. Taking the throw-in will be Jeff Hacker, who is the senior out of Wilton, Connecticut. One of 2 Connecticut players on the roster. The other being Jeff Lombardo out of Manchester, Connecticut. He is a freshman. Connecticut controlling the ball in the corner of their own field, but it's kicked out of bounds by Carlos Fernandez, and Connecticut will have a goal kick. Connecticut with a record of 18 wins and 1 loss against Brown with a record of 3 wins, 6 losses, and 2 ties. Connecticut going after their 17th consecutive win. They haven't lost since they played Indiana way back on September 7th. They won through the whole month of October and through most of the month of September, except for that 1 loss at Bloomington. Huskies playing some fine ball. Brown with the ball right now. It's Chris Conti dribbling it around. He has the ball stolen by Connecticut, but Brown gets it right back, and dribbling it off with his foot is Carlos Fernandez. Fernandez sending a pass to the right side for a teammate, but it's picked off by Mike Howard. Howard sends it back to Erhard Kapp, and Connecticut controls the ball. Charlie McSpirit up the middle of the field, sends a pass up for Joe Maroney. Maroney gets the ball stolen off him by number 20, Greg Janitos. Janitos on the left side for teammate Tim White. It's picked off by Tim Maisley, and Maisley over to Mike Howard. And this game is just being played mostly around the midfield line as Mike Howard sends the ball back to Jim Renahan, and Renahan will start it up for the Huskies. Renahan outlets it by his arm, long to the right side, and Graziano Carnolo brings it into Brown territory. Carnolo over for Elvis Comrie. Comrie pass back to Gratz is kicked away by Andy Lauda. It goes out of bounds, and Connecticut has a throw-in. Erhard Kapp coming up with the ball right in front of the penalty area for Ricky Crenn. Crenn, a left-footed shot over, knocked away by Swanson. It goes out of bounds, last touched by a Brown Bruin, and Connecticut will have the first corner kick of the game with 40 minutes and 28 seconds to go in the first half. DeBrito will be taking the corner kick. Connecticut setting up some sort of offense. DeBrito now lofting the ball in front of the goal, looking to set up for headers. Erhard Kapp, he hits the ball once with Elvis Comrie goal! Erhard Kapp, a header right to Elvis Comrie's foot. Comrie puts the ball in the net, and Connecticut comes out on top with the first goal of the game. Connecticut leading this game by a score of 1-0. That goal scored at 4:45. Credited to Elvis Comrie, his 16th goal of the season, on an assist by Erhard Kapp. Kapper's 6 assists and his 10th point. So Elvis Comrie continuing his hot streak on scoring, and Connecticut coming up with the first goal of the game at 4:45.
Assisted on the play by number 5, Darak.
Ball back in play here at Storrs, Connecticut. Connecticut 1, Brown 0. Connecticut controlling the ball deep in their own territory, and it's Erhard Kapp sending the pass back to Jim Renahan, and Connecticut will start up an offensive attack once more. Connecticut coming up with the first goal here this afternoon, riding a 16-game winning streak. Joe Maroney right around the midfield circle. Slows up now, sends a pass up for Graziano Carnolo. Carnolo misses it, but Pedro DeBrito's in a fight forward Conti, and he beats him down the line. DeBrito sends a pass up front for nobody in particular. The ball goes out of bounds before DeBrito can get back to it, and Brown will have a goal kick. Goal kick will be taken by goalie Greg Miko. Miko on the season has a 3-win, 4-loss record. He has a goal against average of 2.33. He has had allowed 15 goals and has 46 saves. Save percentage of 75. Graziano Carnolo controlling the ball, sends it back for Charlie McSpirit. McSpirit dribbling the ball around. Gives one up for Ricky Crenn. Crenn on the left side for Bill Maroney, the midfielder. Maroney's without the protective headgear for the first time since he broke his cheekbone against Boston University. Gives it over to Erhard Kapp. Kapp sends a pass up, stolen by Tim White of Brown, but ball re-picked off by Elvis Comrie. And Comrie gives it over to Jim Renahan, and Connecticut again will start right from their own goal area. Renahan over to Howard. Howard back to Renahan. And Renahan looking to see the best way possible to get the ball out of the Connecticut zone. Renahan still dribbling the ball around, now holding it. Now he boots it, a high lobber right around the midfield area. It's going to be headed by a Brown player, number 17, Andy Lauda. He heads it up in the air way back into the Connecticut zone where Erhard Kapp takes it. Kapp over to Maisley. Maisley around. One Brown player gives it over to Graziano Carnolo, but Carnolo can't stop it from going over the touchline, and it will be a Brown throw-in. 38 minutes and 13 seconds to go in the first half. It's Connecticut 1, Brown 0. The throw-in made by Jeff Hacker, and a fight between the ball between Ricky Crenn and Darius Scott. It will be a push called on Scott, and Connecticut will have a direct kick, and I believe that's the first foul of the game so far. Erhard Kapp playing catch back and forth with Charlie McSpirit, finally rolling the ball back for Jim Renahan, and Renahan will start it up for the Huskies once again. Renahan up towards the midfield area, and there's a push by a Brown player, number 26, Chris Conti, on Elvis Comrie.
Bruins call for pushing from
And Connecticut has a direct kick. Quickly, Tim Maisley puts the ball into play, giving over the left side to Pedro DeBrito. DeBrito trying to go up the middle, slows the ball down, passes to Elvis Comrie, give and go, not connecting, and it's stolen by Bill Champagne. Champagne bringing the ball up the field. It rolls out of bounds, and Connecticut will have a throw-in. Mike Howard on the left side gives it over to Pedro DeBrito. DeBrito almost having the ball stolen, now getting the ball stolen by Champagne again. Champagne sending the ball back to teammate Sherman Swanson. Swanson has the ball stolen by Graciano Cornola. A nice hustling play. Cornola sends the ball up in front, headed away by Swanson. Down to the right side and controlled by Fernandez of Brown. Fernandez sending a pass up to teammate Stu Mountain. Mountain sending it into Connecticut's zone, but to no one in particular, and Connecticut comes up with the ball. It's Mike Howard bringing the ball back into the Brown side of the field. And Graciano Cornola in a foot race with Andy Lauda. Lauda gets there first, kicks the ball back to Greg Miko, the goalie, and the goalie will start up the play for Brown. Miko boots a low liner. Joe Maroney going after the header, couldn't make it. It was headed by Stu Mountain up in the air. Ball still bouncing around in the air, headed down by Darius Scott of Brown to his teammate number 9. I believe it's number 8, Sherman Swanson. Swanson over to Carlos Fernandez. Fernandez dribbling the ball on the left side. Boots the ball in front of the goal where it's taken off the chest of a Brown teammate, but kicked away by number 8, Joe Maroney. That was Greg Janitos, who had a good chance of putting the ball into the net if he could have settled that ball down, but he couldn't do so, and now Connecticut has come up with the ball. Pedro DeBrito crossing the midfield line, getting around Jeff Hacker, coming down, streaking down the right side, slowing the ball up, being pushed by Hacker, and finally a foul called as Hacker really gave DeBrito the elbow. DeBrito has a direct kick, but a whistle called, and now call the referee now making a different decision, saying that DeBrito made the push, and Jeff Hacker will have the ball. Now the referee blows his whistle. He's talking to DeBrito. DeBrito's going to have to watch out there. He's going to have a yellow card. But the referee said, no, in the first place I called a direct push on you. And Coach Joe Maroney not too happy about this at all. He's coming out talking to the referee. But the ball is back in play. Charlie McSpirit heads the ball around, gives it over to Ricky Crenn and over to Joe Maroney, who is now around the midfield circle. Maroney getting around Janitos. It's going to be a battle between Maroney and Janitos all day. Both of them midfielders, both of them close to being the leading scorers on each team. Crenn with the ball, right side to Charlie McSpirit. McSpirit coming down the middle of the field, looking for Pedro DeBrito. DeBrito covered. Now DeBrito gets open, gives it to DeBrito right in front of the penalty circle. Kick on the left side, shot away to the left. Goes out of bounds, and there will be a goal kick for the Brown Bruins. And getting set to check into the game, number 11, Harold Mix, and number 4, Jeff Lombardo. Well, as we mentioned earlier, Lombardo, a freshman out of Manchester, Connecticut. And Harold Mix out of Borlänge, Sweden. And checking out of the game is number 2, Darius Scott. And I believe number 6, Tim White. Brown with the ball. Controlled off the foot of Jeff Lombardo. Lombardo sends it back to teammate Jeff Hacker. Hacker kicking the ball up the field, but it goes out of bounds over the touchline, and Connecticut will have a throw-in. Crenn with the throw-in right in front for Graziano Cornolo. Cornolo getting pushed by Hacker. No call. Ball goes back into the Connecticut side of the field, and it's taken by Mike Howard, who sends it back to Erhard Kapp, and Kapper is controlling the defense. Calls for the ball and now decides that he's going to bring it up the left side and passes over to Charlie McSpirit. 34 minutes, 28 seconds to go in the first half. If you've just joined us, it's Connecticut 1, Brown 0 on a goal by Elvis Comrie at the 4:45 mark. Credit the assist to Erhard Kapp. For Comrie, it's his 16th goal and his 26th point on the season. For Kapper, it was his 6th assist and 10th point of the season. Brown controlling the ball right around the midfield area. Carlos Fernandez sending it in on the left side for Harold Mix. Mix losing the ball to Mike Howard. Howard giving it over to Elvis Comrie, and Connecticut now controlling the ball on their own side. Comrie up to Howard. Howard trying to get around number 19, Jeff Hacker. He finally does so. There's a push between Hacker and Howard, and it's called against the Bruins, as Connecticut will have the direct kick. Howard waiting for his team to set up. Getting ready to check in the game is John Novojaski for the Huskies. Howard sends it up to Graciano Cornolo, who was tripped on the play by Andy Lauda. And the fans now starting to call against the referee. The referee now blows his whistle. He's probably going to give Lauda what I believe will be a warning to start settling down in the physical play. There's about, I believe, 1,000 to 1,500 fans here, Andy.
Harold, as you mentioned, that is about the size of the crowd right now. Very small crowd and kind of a subdued crowd at the moment. That first goal almost too easy for the Huskies right in front, just a mix-up in Brown's defense, and Elvis Comrie scoring a goal from perhaps 2 feet in front of the goal line.
Jeff Lombardo with the ball, gives it up to teammate Jeff Hacker, where it's stolen, and then stolen by Erhard Kapp. Kapp and Elvis Comrie right inside the penalty area in front for Pedro DeBrito, but kicked away nicely on a beautiful play by Tim White. make that number 8, Sherman Swanson. Swanson, the sweeper back, making a very nice play for the Brown Bruins. It's now ball controlled by Charlie McSpirit, bringing it up the middle. Stolen by Brown on number 19, Jeff Hacker. Hacker to the left side to teammate Greg Janitos. Janitos up the field for Fernandez. Fernandez being fought for the ball very hardly by Mike Howard. Howard making a nice defensive play, kicking the ball over the touchline, where Brown will have a throw-in.
Brown throwing by number 3.
Fernandez taking the throw-in, giving it over to Lombardo. Lombardo loses the ball to Joe Maroney. Maroney sends it back to Charlie McSpirit, where it's stolen by Brown, but controlled again by the Huskies. Erhard Kapp with the ball. Sending it in up the middle for Elvis Comrie. Comrie being pushed from behind by Hacker. No call. Still controlling the ball. A little nice footwork there. Finally sending the ball back to Erhard Kapp and over to Mike Howard. 32 minutes and 26 seconds remaining in the first half. It's Connecticut 1, Brown 0. This is Harold Darak along with Andy Young from Gardner Dow Field in Storrs, Connecticut. Our next soccer broadcast will be this Sunday at 1:55 p.m. with Andy Young and Bill Haley. Connecticut Huskies facing the number 9 nationally ranked Penn State Nittany Lions. Very big contest for the UConn Huskies. It'll be their first team they're playing that was nationally ranked in quite some time. I believe the last nationally ranked team they did play was Duke when they defeated them by a score of 6-1. Besides that, they have not played any nationally ranked teams.
Well, it's funny, the 2 toughest teams that they've played since then, one was North Carolina State, a game supposedly supposed to be a blowaway. That went 3-2 UConn's way on a penalty kick with about 9 minutes to go, and the other one, surprisingly enough, was at Springfield. Although the score perhaps was a little bit closer than the game itself was. 1-0 against a Division II opponent. Those were the 2 toughest games for the Huskies, really, as you mentioned, since September.
Connecticut has a corner kick. Checking in the game, Conrad Sedkowski for Brown. The corner kick taken by Elvis Comrie, right in front of the goal. Charlie McSpirit keeping it forward with a kick. A header by Pedro Brito is missed. Kren keeps the ball right in front of the goal. Nice play by the goalie Greg Miko as Kren took a shot, and Miko sent it over the crossbar. And the ball goes over the crossbar. Connecticut with another corner kick.
Harold, anyone that's followed UConn soccer the last 2 or 3 years will tell you that Ricky Kren may not have the foot speed, but he is definitely the best player UConn has in the air. Tremendous skills, both with his feet and his head in the air. And that another acrobatic shot that Mitko had to make a real good play on to keep out of the net.
Noah Jaski was checked in the game out last time. Now DeBrito taking another corner kick, a low line right in front, off the chest of Elvis Comrie, cleared away by Jeff Lombardo. Kren trying to keep it in his zone. He's fighting for the ball with Harold Mix, and Mix wins the battle and sends it over to teammate Jeff Lombardo. Brown out of the there's a chirp right in front of us, as I was about to say. Brown
Call for tripping.
out of trouble right in front of their goal, but there's a trip now, and Connecticut will have a direct kick. Carlos getting ready to check into the game for the Huskies. He has been injured. He played somewhat last game versus Lafayette, but he had a stress fracture in his foot. And he saw some considerable action last game. Erhard Kapp with a direct kick, sending in front for Joe Maroney, and John Nowajaski punched down nicely by Greg Miko on the right side, and Brown controls the ball. Ball now stolen by Bill Maroney, quickly stolen back by Brown. Now loose in the area, and it's picked up by little Joe Maroney, and Joe sends it over to Charlie McSpirit. McSpirit back to Erhard Kapp. 29 minutes, 53 seconds to go in the contest. Ball stolen right in front by Janitos from Brown. Janitos passing it over to teammate Conrad Sedkowski. Sedkowski back to Harold Mix. And Mix can't control the ball for long as Charlie McSpirit comes up and steals it. Connecticut on top by a score of 1-0 over the Bruins of Brown. Jim Renahan gets the ball back from Erhard Kapp, and he'll dribble the ball on, and he'll wait to see something in front of him, as there's not much movement at all in this game. No one's breaking at all. Everyone's standing around stagnated. There's a push in front of the press box area. Elvis Comrie being pushed by Jeff Hacker. Connecticut has a direct kick, and sending it into the zone is Erhard Kapp for Elvis Comrie. Goes far for him. Out of bounds at a throw-in for Brown.
Harold, you mentioned Jim Renahan in the UConn goal. Renahan with 17 career shutouts stands tied for third on the all-time list with John Demeter. Only 2 players in front of him tied for first with 19 career shutouts. Bob Ross and Ted McSherry, 2 recent UConn goalies. Remember, Jim Renahan is only a junior, so he should shatter that record before his career here at UConn is over.
Renahan playing some fine ball in the goal for the Huskies. This year on the season, he has 7 shutouts. Tony Pierce has 3 shutouts. Pierce is 6-0. Connecticut controlling the ball. It's Elvis Comrie deep in Brown territory. Comrie one-on-one with Andy Lauda. Kicks the ball past him right in front for Charlie McSpirit. Cleared away nicely by Brown defense. Controlled by Joe Maroney right inside the right side of the penalty area. Maroney sends it over in front. Nice play by Mikos. John Nowajaski was looking for a header. Couldn't get it. And now Brown sends the ball out, and I see Elvis Comrie raising a hand. He's tired and asking Coach Maroney to get him out of the game. Connecticut controlling the ball. Ricky Kren giving it over to Jim Renahan, who comes way out of the net to pick up the ball. Connecticut having a nice opportunity here to score, but a nice save by Mitko. As Novojaski is looking for the header, there's a whistle on the play and a push call by Connecticut on Pedro DeBrito. And it'll be a direct kick for the Brown Bruins right around the midfield line. Carlos still warming up. Talked to a few players before the game, and the scouting report on the Brown Bruins is there's only 5 Bruins who start every game, and the other 6 Bruins usually are rotated in and out. So Brown must have a pretty good bench as they play most of their players around. We've seen a few substitutes so far in this game for the Bruins. Bill Maroney controlling the ball, sends it back to Jim Renahan, and again Renahan will be asked to set up the offensive attack. Clock winding down, 27 minutes, 25 seconds. Almost half the period is gone. Connecticut with a 1-0 lead. It's a goal by Elvis Comrie from Earhart Cap. Joe Maroney streaking down the right side of the field. Going against Greg Janitos. Slows the ball up. Goes towards the corner. Still controlling the ball at the corner. Getting around Janitos. Going around the right touchline. Getting the ball in front for John Novojaski. Novojaski sells the ball. Gives it over for Bill Maroney, but it's kicked out of the way by a Brown Bruin. Kept in the area by Charlie Spirit. He sends it up a header for Pedro DeBrito, but Mitko comes out of the goal to make the play. Connecticut putting some pressure on the Brown defense. And Brown coming through nicely as they control the ball. Whistle on the play on Connecticut elbow. And Brown sends in the direct kick quickly. It's Harold Mick sending it on the right side for number 28, Conrad Sadkowski. Kicked away by Earhart Cap. Capper gets the ball back. He heads it away. Bill Maroney now controlling it. And the ball is set up the field for Pedro DeBrito. He misheads it, and it's settled down on the foot of Andy Lauda. Lauda keeps it into the Connecticut zone for teammate Sadkowski. Sadkowski can't control it. Earhart Cap has it, and Capper rolls the ball back to Jim Renahan, the goalie. As we said earlier, Carlos getting ready to check in the game. Now Stu Mountain getting ready to recheck into the game. Mountain is a junior out of Southwick, Massachusetts. There's a collision on the field between Earhart Cap and number 3, Carlos Fernandez, but Brown controls the ball on the whistle, and the UConn fans aren't too happy about that. On the right side, Greg Janitos streaking by, trying to get around Pedro DeBrito. Ball in front of the goal. It's settled off the foot of Harold Mix. Mix sending over to teammate Fernandez. Fernandez can't control it very long, and Connecticut has the ball in the corner of their own zone. Pedro DeBrito kicking it out for Charlie McSpirit. It goes out of bounds. There'll be a throw-in. Taking the throw-in, Bill Champagne. Champagne sends it up for Fernandez. Fernandez gives it up for number 28, Sadkowski. And the first save of the game made by Jim Renahan on a lobber right in front of the goal. Renahan outletting to Joe Maroney. Maroney can't control it, and Ricky Kren comes up with the ball. Kren back to Maroney, and Maroney will start up the offense from deep in his own side. Maroney looking for brother Bill. Can't get to it. Instead, it's controlled by John Novojaski. Novojaski, a 1-on-2, slows the ball up. Looking for Bill Maroney. He's still controlling him, and he finally gets the pass over to Bill right in front of the penalty area. Bill wisely decides to slow up and wait for some of his teammates to come down for the offense. As Connecticut had a 2-on-4. And Brown comes up and steals the ball. With it, Janitos on the left side, stolen by Joe Maroney. Ball goes out of bounds. Last touch by Janitos. And Maroney has a throw-in. He gets it in for John Novojaski. Novojaski dribbling the ball towards the left side. Novojaski on the ear playing some fine ball with 5 goals and 1 assist. Sends it in on the left side for Ricky Kren. Stolen by number 4, Jeff Lombardo, to teammate Harold Mix. Kren had a push, but no call. And coming up with it is Conrad Sadkowski. Stolen by Charlie McSpirit on the right side. Trying to get it between 2 Brown players, but Sadkowski comes up with the ball for the Bruins. He's controlling it in the corner, still dribbling the ball around. It goes over the touchline. Last touch by Sadkowski. Make that, yes, it is Sadkowski. Connecticut will have their 3rd corner kick of the game, and some substitutions are coming in.
Now, let me correct myself very quickly. Jim Renahan with 15 career shutouts, not with 17. We double-checked that. And also stay with us at halftime, where John Bazagian, the former sports editor of the Willimantic Chronicle, will be our guest talking sports.
Comrie with the loud throw, coming out of goal is Mitko. The ball still loose in front, cleared nicely by Stu Mountain. There was a collision between the goalie Mitko and Joe Maroney. Maroney was looking for a header. Mitko came way out of the net to try to punch the ball out. Instead, he punched Maroney. And Maroney was down. He's now up. He did not play 60 minutes of the last game because of an injury, but he is up and walking around, and he says he's okay.
Now, Coach Joe Maroney is out on the field screaming at the official. That's an automatic yellow card, or it should be. We've had a lot of complaints about that from the UConn coach as well as opposition coaches as far as being consistent on that rule. You've got to call it one way or the other, and Coach Joe just now gets off the field, so UConn's got to be a little bit controlled out there. Cliff Stevenson has indicated a number of displeasure, or a lot of displeasure anyway, with the calls here this afternoon as well, although he perhaps is not as demonstrative.
Earhart Cap getting ready to take a direct kick, and there's a wall being set up for the Brown Bruins. It's about 20 yards away from the penalty area. A lob in front of the goal for Bill Maroney, headed away by number 8, Sherman Swanson of Brown. He goes out of bounds in Connecticut with another corner kick.
Harold, that was a case of bad communication between Swanson and the goalkeeper Mitko right there. Mitko should have handled that ball, but he didn't yell enough, or yell loud enough rather. The ball was knocked away by Swanson. UConn gets a corner kick and a chance to score.
DeBrito, lobber in front, headed by Earhart Cap, headed away by a Brown defensive player, and Connecticut comes up empty. But Mike Howard keeping the ball on the left side. Pedro DeBrito has it now. He's trying to get around and does get around. Bill Champagne sending the ball in front of the goals. Nice save by Mitko. He loses it almost, and Elvis Kyrie was ready to pounce on it. Mitko lost the ball, then corralled it into his stomach area, and a good play by Mitko is another save for the Brown goalie.
Good play and a difficult play, too. A lot harder than it looked. Mitko had to short hop that ball to keep it away from Comrie. It rolled away just for a second, but he was able to get the right hand out, pull it back into his stomach, and now the Brown team will be able to punt it out of their own goal area with 22 and a half minutes to go. Halfway point of the first half, and UConn leading at 1-0 on Elvis Comrie's 16th goal of the season from Earhart Cap at 4:45.
Ricky Kren getting ready to check back into the game. As there was a substitution made, Kren came out when Carlos came in, and there's a goal kick for the Brown Bruins. Swanson taking it, sending it into the Connecticut side of the field, where it's headed back in by Earhart Cap. Capper for Bill Maroney. Maroney slowing the ball up, sending it back to Capper, and letting Cap start up the offense for the Huskies. Cap on the left side for Carlos. He's being guarded tightly by Harold Mix. Carlos goes over to John Novojaski. Novojaski trying to get around Lauda. He can't do so, and the ball is picked off by Stu Mountain. Mountain dribbling the ball on the right side leaves it off for teammate Tim White. Back up to the field for Carlos Fernandez. Fernandez being guarded tightly by Mike Howard, and Howard and Fernandez having some words behind the scene of the play. And coming up with the ball was Bill Champagne. He kicked it over the touchline, and Connecticut will have it thrown, and taking it will be Jeff Bope.
Jeff Bope.
Don't want to keep belaboring the point, but this is the smallest crowd of the season here, and this should be a good crowd, despite the fact the Bruins are a little on the downtrodden side.
And the Bruins are now being called for a yellow card as the referee has stopped the play, and they're issuing a yellow card to Carlos Fernandez, the forward out of Brooklyn, New York, who I believe was the high school teammate of Elvis Comrie. Fernandez and I believe Mike Howard going at it. And Fernandez getting a yellow card with 21 minutes and 32 seconds left. Which in the past might have meant something big, but there's been so many yellow cards this year on both teams. Whenever UConn plays, it's just another little occurrence.
Now, again, I think the key word for that is consistency. They've got to decide either one way or another whether the yellow card is going to be, like you said, frequent, or if it's going to be for more grave offenses. Problem is, if you don't call too many of them, the games tend to get out of hand. UConn are physical teams, as are most of their opponents this season.
Connell checks in for Fernandez, and coming in for John Novojaski is Ricky Krenis. Both teams are allowed to substitute when a yellow card is issued. Brown controlling the ball. Bill Champagne sending the ball over to teammate Andy Lauda. Whistle on the play, and a push called on Elvis Comrie. It'll be a direct kick for Brown around midfield of their own area. Clock is running with 21 minutes to go in the first half. This is Harold Darak along with Andy Young. Tomorrow morning, Friday morning at 11 o'clock, women's field hockey takes it air at the University of Connecticut radio station WHUS. BJ Fennell, Mark Boudreau will be bringing you Connecticut Husky field hockey tournament, the tournament versus Dartmouth in the first round action. That will be up at Springfield's Benedum Field. So stay tuned for all the action at 11 o'clock. Connecticut controlling the ball. It's Tim Maisley getting around a couple of Brown players. Looking good on the left side for Elvis Comrie. Gets the ball to Comrie. Give and go. Not back for Maisley, but instead for Mike Howard. And Howard stops and slows up the ball. Howard looking to get around Connell. Sends a pass to Elvis Comrie. Comrie over to Maisley. And Maisley sending it back to Howard. Howard trying to overlap. Going deep into the Brown side of the field. But a whistle called on the play. And I believe they're going to call a push on Connecticut. And it'll be a direct kick for the Brown Bruins. They send the ball back to Mitko, the goalie, and he sends a high lobbing kick that doesn't get past midfield. And coming up with the header is Mike Howard. Andy, one thing I've noticed with most of the opponent's goalies, they do not have the strong foot of a Jim Renahan or a Tony Pierce. They can't even get the ball past the midfield line most of the time.
Harold, it's a good point, and you're going to notice it more and more as the game goes on. Quite simply, it's a case of fatigue. The opponent goalkeepers have been punting 15 to 20 times a game. Renahan rarely has to. I don't think he punts more than 2 or 3 times a game, and as you mentioned again, he's got that real tough throwing arm, which is a very good weapon in itself. It's almost an offensive weapon. It can start the offense out if the other team is leaning the wrong way.
Champagne sending the ball deep into the Connecticut side, headed away by Tim Maisley, headed by Carlos, and Pedro DeBrito coming up and on the right side. DeBrito almost run off the ball by Jeff Lombardo, sending a pass right in the midfield area for Bill Maroney. Maroney streaking down the left side, and the Huskies have a little bit of a break. Maroney sends a pass in front for Ricky Kren, picked off and knocked away nicely by Sherman Swanson, the sweeper back, but Swanson can't get the ball out of the area, and coming up with it is Joe Maroney. Maroney for a hard cap. Capper slows it down and sends it back to Mike Howard. Howard standing right in the midfield stripe, gives it over to Bill Maroney. Maroney back passing to Howard one more time, and now they're going to try to take it in on the right side. Howard over there, hard cap. Capper stops the ball, looking to go up the middle now, sending a pass deep in the right side for Joe Maroney, who is breaking, but it goes past him, and it goes past the Brown defense, rolls out of bounds over the
Play all year round, and Tampa Bay is one of the big soccer pockets in the country, along with St. Louis and, of course, right here in Connecticut.
There's 11 minutes and 29 seconds to go in this first half. Ball rolls out of bounds. The last touch by Brown Bruin, and Connecticut will have it throwing. Getting ready to check in the game for the Huskies, Ed Lynch. Lynch on the year is a freshman.
And Harold Lynch also from Verona, New Jersey, high school teammate of Charlie McSpirit.
Huskies controlling the ball. It's Mike Howard sending it deep into the Brown side of the field, where it's kicked up in the air by Sherman Swanson. Finally sent it down off the head of John Nowajaski. The left side for Pedro DeBrito. DeBrito battling for it with Swanson. DeBrito wins the battle, trying to get around Swanson, sending a pass, getting ready to send a pass in front, but he was tripped as the ball went out of bounds. And they're going to call Connecticut with a direct corner kick from the left side, and Lynch finally checks into the game. Lynch checking in for John Nowajaski. Nowajaski, the hustler at the UConn team, really doing a fine job.
Placing Nowajaski.
And taking the corner kick will be Pedro DeBrito. DeBrito sends a lob in front, headed by Joe Maroney, wide to the right. Ball goes out of bounds, and a goal kick will be had by the Bruins of Brown.
10 minutes, 20 seconds left to go here in the first half. UConn leading at 1-0 on a goal early in the half from Elvis Comrie, his 16th of the season. Earhart Cap drawing his 6th assist of the season at 4:45.
Mikko pouncing that ball right up the midfield. And settling it down is Jeff Lombardo. Lombardo, one of the 2 players from Connecticut. He hails from Manchester, Connecticut. He's a freshman. And whistle on the play as Connecticut's called for a foul. Make that obstruction, and that'll be an indirect kick for the Brown Bruins. Taking it, Greg Janitos. Huskies setting up no wall at all. Janitos is about 20 yards out of the penalty area. He kicks one right up in front, right to Jim Renahan, and Renahan makes the play. Untouched by any other player, so it wouldn't have been a goal even if Jim Renahan couldn't pick up that roller.
Harold, that one an indication of how far the Bruins have fallen. That good opportunity on a direct kick, and they go for the long direct shot from 35 yards out right on goal, and not terribly hard either.
Carlos Fernandez kicking the ball to teammate Chris Conti. Conti sending the ball back on the right side for Fernandez. Carlos Fernandez losing the ball to Carlos, but Bill Champagne taking the ball away from him. He's in the corner trying to dribble around Carlos, but the Connecticut defense pounces on the ball, rolls out of bounds, and it'll be a throw-in for the Brown Bruins, deep from the far side of the field. Ball coming up front, headed away by Tim White, controlling by Connecticut as Charlie McSpirit sends it away, right to the feet of Carlos Fernandez. It goes over everything.
Held that last sequence, I think the first time the Bruins have put more than 2 passes together back-to-back in the UConn offensive zone. Not a bad sequence right there for the Bruins. Really not a great opportunity to score, but at least they're starting to get some continuity down in the UConn end. 8.5 to go in the first half. UConn clinging to that 1-goal lead.
Coach Cliff Stevenson must be very frustrated, as right now his team really cannot muster up any sort of offense. As we said earlier, they've only scored 18 goals on the year, and that's playing in 11 games, so that's a little bit over 1.5 goals a game. Not very good for the Brown team. It was usually a national powerhouse. They won 10 Ivy League titles between the past 20 years. Ricky Kren on the breakaway on the left side, getting around Andy Lauda. He's now being tripped up by Lauda. Lauda steals the ball right up back from Kren. As Andy said earlier, Kren with not a lot of foot speed, but with a lot of skills, and Lauda just lost the ball to Kren and then beat him back to the ball. and kicked the ball out of bounds, and Connecticut will have a corner kick as the ball went out of bounds, last touch by Lauda. I don't believe Brown had a corner kick all game, and Carlos sends the ball in front, mishead by Bill Maroney, settled down by Ed Lynch, but kicked away by the Brown team, and Brown still controlling it. Stolen pass, stolen by Charlie McSpirit. McSpirit slows the ball up, looking to send it in front for the goal for Bill Maroney, but it goes right to the chest of Mitko. And Mitko almost lost it, and Bill Maroney was right there just in case he did.
Harold, the only reason that sequence went on, again, the skill of Ricky Kren in the air. The ball would have been out past any other UConn player, but it was high over the head. Kren went up, acrobatically left-footed that ball back on towards the goal. Remember, Kren is in the air doing that, and his good foot is his right one, or his better foot, I should say. Both feet are excellent on Rick Kren.
Ball goes out of bounds, and last touch by the Huskies. And the Bruins will take the throw, and Jeff Hacker holding the ball high above his head, looking for some of his teammates to move. Everyone is pretty stagnated right around the midfield area. Ball headed up by Tim White, back to Hacker. It was stolen by Bope, and Bope sends it into the zone where it's headed away by Sherman Swanson, and Swanson gives it back where it's controlled by Connecticut's Ed Lynch. Lynch over to DeBrito. DeBrito on a nice siding kick over to Tim Maisley. Maisley beating out his opponent, but the ball kicked out of bounds by Chris Conti. And Connecticut will have another corner kick.
Harold Maisley hit Conti after the whistle behind the referee's back. Nothing called. He didn't see it. But again, Huskies have to watch that.
A lot of cheap shots today for both teams. We've been calling the Huskies cheap shots, but Bill Maroney was felled by a call. He's back into the game. Connecticut controlling the ball. Brown kicking it out of bounds, and Connecticut will have another corner kick. 6 minutes and 12 seconds to go in the contest. In the first half of this contest. Connecticut 1, Brown 0. DeBrito lobbing one in front of the goal. Maroney looking for the header, couldn't get to it. Harold Mix controlling the ball for the Brown team. He's being pushed by Ed Lynch. No call. Now there's a call. Lynch being called for the push, and Brown quickly puts in a direct kick. Pass over to Greg Jantos. Jantos sending it upfield. Stolen by Charlie McSpirit. McSpirit keeping the ball in the Brown side of the field, coming right up the middle where he's run off the ball by Tim White. It goes out of bounds, and another corner kick for the Huskies. I don't believe Brown has had one all game, and I believe Connecticut coming up to double digit on corner kicks.
They haven't, held, and of course that an indication right there of how loose the Brown Bruins are. McSpirit was surrounded by 5 defenders as he came up with that ball. Didn't get through, obviously, but Brown had to kick the ball over their own end line, and that they should be able to do better with odds like those.
DeBrito, low liner, goes past Carlos. Ed Lynch takes a shot. He goes wide to the right. Last touched off a Brown player to the Huskies' liking, and it's going to be another corner kick. DeBrito again taking this corner kick. Huskies have failed on every single corner kick. DeBrito this time another liner right in front of the goal, headed away by a Brown player, Sherman Swanson, the sweeper back, controlled by Jeff Bope, but he can't control it for long, and coming up with it is Greg Jantos for the Brown Bruins. Jantos on the left side for Mix. Mix loses it off to Jeff Bope. Bope back to Lynch and back to Bope. Bope bringing it up the middle of the field over for Joe Maroney. Maroney trying to get it around one defensive player, Andy Lowdy. He does so, sends a pass right to the goalie, Greg Mitko, who makes an easy save off the roller.
A lot of these saves might be a little bit tougher than they look right now, partly, of course, because of the time of year, partly because of the extra rain, but those goal mounts are not in very good condition right now. They're a little bit slick out there before the game, and I can't say that either Mitko or Renahan has an advantage in their area.
Pedro DeBrito coming in the right side into the penalty area. He's being pushed by Jeff Hacker. The ball goes out of bounds, and I'm sure they're going to call it a corner kick and not a push by Hacker. Good call by the referee. Even though there's a push in the penalty area, you can't call it every single time, or these games would be really out of control.
That one's strictly body position there by Hacker. Hacker going after the ball and having his body in position while he's going after the ball. Of course, no obstruction call, so just a good play.
4 minutes, 5 seconds left. DeBrito sends his corner kick in front where he kicks it over everybody's head. There's a whistle on the play, and they're going to call, I believe, a jumping in call, a push or a jumping in call. It's going to be a push. And a direct kick for the Brown Bruins. Now, as we said earlier, Connecticut not connecting on any of their corner kicks. All of them giving them ample opportunity to put the ball into net from a set play, but not being able to do that, and that's how come Connecticut's only up by a score of 1-0. I'm really anxious to see the halftime statistics on shots on goal and even fouls, because that looks like there's going to be a lot of fouls called here in the first half. McSpirit with the ball, bringing it right up the middle, trying to get around one Brown player. They both slide as McSpirit and Swanson are fouled, and coming up with the ball is the goalie, Greg Mitko. Mitko outlets it with his arm right to the chest of Chris Fernandez. Fernandez over to teammate Harold Mix. Back to Fernandez, almost thrown by Maroney, but Fernandez is controlling on the left side. He is still in his own area. Now he crosses midfield, and he kicks the ball up towards the circle to Greg Jantos. Jantos loses it, and Jantos has really been contained very easily by Joe Maroney. Giantos, who was the leading scorer with only 3 goals and 5 assists. Most goals are scored by Stu Mount, but for points, Giantos has the lead, and he hasn't done much of anything this afternoon. Carlos with the ball as he plays it nicely off the foot of David Connell. He sends it right in front of the goal left side, and almost a shot by Maroney, but it's a nice play by Giantos as he clears it over the touchline, and Maroney and Giantos collided, and both of them getting up a little bit slowly, but Connecticut has a throw-in, and there Cap takes it. There's only 2 minutes and 33 seconds to go in the half. Joe Maroney sending it in front for Pedro DeBrito. Ball goes out of bounds. And a corner kick again for the Huskies. Crowd of only about 1,500 fans. And if you think it's quiet today, you should have heard the game when there was 4,400 fans versus Lafayette. Almost as silent. The UConn Husky fans not as boisterous as they have been in the past. And I kind of miss it.
Hell, you can't yell if there's nothing to yell about.
That's true, too. Pedro DeBrito with a lob pass in front. Off the head of Aaron Cap. Maroney looking for the header off the foot of Carlos, and he goes out of bounds on the left side. He had a fine chance of scoring.
He did, but again, that situation called for Ricky Crenn. Again, it was a situation that called for a bicycle kick or some type of mid-air move, and nothing against Carlos because both had the same type of opportunity earlier. It is just a rare soccer player that is able to do that, and Crenn is the only one on the UConn team, or the only one I've seen in New England that can handle that type of play consistently and do it well.
He would probably have headed it in if I know Ricky Crenn diving after any ball he could possibly do. He puts his body right on the line when he's playing soccer.
Hell, that's a good point. Remember, Carlos is barely 5'6" out there, and he's not going to get a ball that some of the bigger players might. He has terrific talent in the midfield, however, despite that height.
Ed Lynch in the penalty area trying to get around one Brown player controlling the ball. Now another Brown player, Harold Mix, coming up with him. Lynch versus Mix. He sends the ball for Pedro DeBrito. DeBrito looking for Burp. He can't get to him, and Tim White comes up with the ball. White gets the ball stolen by McSpirit right to Bill Maroney. The give and go is missed as Andy Lauda comes up and steals the ball from Bill Maroney. But that would have been a nice play if Maroney could have gotten it back to the Connecticut player, Charlie McSpirit, because McSpirit would have had a one-on-one with the goalie. Capper takes the throw and gives it right into Charlie McSpirit. McSpirit looking to take the shot. He takes a weak one right to the gut of the goalie, Greg Mitko, and Mitko rolls the ball off on the right side, and not before Bill Maroney gets off a push on the goalie, Greg Mitko. No call there. 38 seconds to go in this half. It's Connecticut 1, Brown 0. At halftime, Andy Young will have an interview, and so stay tuned for that. And Connecticut controlling the ball. Carlos keeping the header right in front of the zone, and it's going to be a foot race between Pedro DeBrito and the goalie, Greg Mitko. Mitko comes out and gets it, and DeBrito standing right in front of him. The clock is winding down. 18 seconds, 16 seconds, and then Mitko holding the ball, throws it on the left side, or right side, for Giantos. Stolen by Carlos, and lobber deep into the Brown territory. Is going to bounce over everything, go out of bounds, and that's halftime here at Gardner Dow Field in Storrs, Connecticut. With the halftime score, the Connecticut Huskies 1, the Brown Bruins 0. We'll be back with the halftime festivities right after these words.
1-0.